All right, so I'm David Higgins. I'm not a lawyer. I'm here with Armando Edmiston. He is a lawyer, owner and founder of Armando Personal Injury Law, main offices in Tampa. Today, what we want to do is get to know you a little bit as a person.
All right, let's do it.
So let's start with, for the people who don't know you yet, how would you want to introduce yourself to them beyond I'm a lawyer?
So I think, first and foremost, I think it's important to know I'm from the community, David. Okay, I grew up in Plant City. I've been in this area for over 30 years. I'm familiar with the streets, the universities, the doctors, the community. Right. I'm well versed in who we are and what we represent in this community. So I think that that's important to know. I think it's important to note my family has deep roots. My grandfather started the surgical department in Plant City in Florida. Right. So he was the first surgeon there that created that whole surgical department and brought that community a doctor. So I think if that's important to know, I think, I went to USF, go Bulls, and they're having a great season. So I think that that's important. And, but yeah, I'm from the community, and I think that that's important to know.
So then what does Tampa mean to you then personally, since you are from here?
I mean, Tampa's my home. Tampa's where it started, right? All of my dreams started. Tampa's where, I worked in the bar scene going to college, right? So I've grown up in this community and I've seen it change over the years.
Okay. So out of every type of law that you could have gone into as a lawyer, why personal injury? Why is that what you chose to practice?
Well, it isn't the only practice area I've ever practiced, David. I actually practiced, or I started in personal injury. Then I moved to criminal defense because what I learned quickly is when I started as a very young lawyer at a personal injury firm, they told me I was never going to go to court. And I was never going to basically meet clients. And all I would be doing is researching and writing and dealing with the court. And to me, that just didn't seem very fulfilling. And so they told me, well, if you want to get some litigation experience, go work for the state attorney or the public defender's office. So 3 months later, that's what I did. I went and worked at the public defender's office for a couple of years, getting experience in the courtroom, getting to know the judges, getting to know the bailiffs, getting to know the court system.
Okay. Now, in that experience, was there any single case that stood out to you that made you think, you know what, personal injury is the thing I'm meant to do?
No. So I understood personal injury. I worked at a personal injury law firm in law school, and I know that I like to do that. But again, if you're going to be representing victims, you need to be well versed in the court system. Because if you're a dog with no teeth, the insurance company is going to know that. They're going to know that you don't file lawsuits. They're going to know that you don't go to court. They're going to know that you don't litigate. Then you're just not a threat. And if you're not a threat, they're never going to offer you reasonable money. They're never going to offer your clients what they're worth, what their injuries are worth.
Okay. Now, when you think about your clients, what type of people are you actually fighting for?
So when I think about my clients, the people that I'm fighting for are the people in my community, right? It's the single mom who doesn't know where to turn. It's the family of 4 that were all injured and now the father's out of work. Unfortunately, car accidents can happen to anybody. So I can't think of what is my ideal client. I mean, really, my client can be anybody. It's just anybody that was involved. That isn't their fault. They find themselves in the unfortunate situation of being injured by somebody else's negligence.
Okay. I've worked with other lawyers. I've known several. Right. And one thing I've noticed is that this job is hard. Emotionally, it's time consuming. It takes a toll on you personally. So what's the thing that keeps you going and makes you get up every day to continue doing it?
It's interesting that you say that. And I often tell my colleagues, it's you only have so many bullets, right? And to me, what I mean by that is if you're going to represent somebody, you have to put your heart and soul into it. And it's just the way it is, because I have to step into their shoes. I have to see how they live. I have to understand everything about them, because one day I'm going to have to pitch their case to a jury. And you can't do that unless you walk a mile in their shoes, right, David? You have to know who you're representing, everything about that person, so that you can understand everything that they're going through, to be able to explain it, to be the mouthpiece for that person. And so it is draining, right? And so I think that the thing that keeps me going is, we have very grateful clients at the end of the journey that are just like, wow, thank you so much for helping me. And it's that gratefulness. And I got into it. I don't forget why I got into it. I got into it to help people, right? I like to help people in general. That's just who my personality is. And I think the way we do that is through justice, right? Is through being the mouthpiece and understanding our clients. But, at some point, I think that a lot of lawyers run out of gas, David, right? If you really are doing this to the best of your ability and you're putting yourself in the shoes of your clients, it's hard. It's time consuming. It's interesting because I've had clients ask like, well, what is it? How do you work on our case? And I said, well, I start by understanding the facts. What happened, right? I go to the scene or I look at Google Maps. Like, I understand everything about your case, and I'm constantly thinking about your case through the entire process, right? It's not like you just grab the file and you look at it for a day and you put it down. It's like you're constantly talking to the clients and how is their treatment going? How are they feeling, right? Are they getting the care that they need? And also I'm thinking about how to position the case best to try to get it resolved without filing a lawsuit, because that's in the best interest of my client.
Can you think of any one specific client story that still just resonates with you and always will?
I think that probably, one of the saddest stories clients that we had a client that was riding a bicycle, and unfortunately there was a construction site and they didn't properly mark the construction site. So she got into a bicycle accident and suffered a brain injury. And so she went from being a very productive member of society to now moving in with her mom, losing everything that she had. She had a business, so she lost her business, and she had professional licenses that she could no longer use. And she now had to move in with her mom. And, that case took years and years of fighting because we were fighting 4 different construction companies and nobody wanted to accept responsibility. So I think in my mind, that lady without us, she'd have no future, right? Because her job was taken away from her, her licenses were taken away from her, and now she's not able to support herself anymore.
So when you win a tough case like that, for somebody who's going through the situation where their life's been completely flipped upside down, right?
Yeah.
What does that actually feel like for you?
Just feels, I get a sense of relief at the end, but it's worrisome. It's tiring, right? You think about if you don't put 100% into it and everything doesn't work out perfectly, this person is not going to have a future. So it's a heavy cross to bear.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about doing the right thing. We see a lot of lawyers, and we hear client stories that have come around in the past where they didn't feel like their lawyer was doing the best thing for them. What they wanted was a quick churn and burn. Let's get a settlement, get you in and out, quick money, right?
Right.
Now, something I know about you is that you've taken an extra step to where you actually do some pro bono work for people just to help them. So what's that thing for you that makes you willing to not only work for free, but to pay your staff to work for somebody just to help them?
Well, look, unfortunately, I'm a true believer that you can't get anywhere in life by yourself, David. Okay, so people that are like, I'm self-made, that's not really true or accurate. Mm-hmm. They may think they're self-made, but people along the way have helped them, offered them opportunity, opened the door, have listened to them, have provided them guidance. So you're not really self-made. It's actually that people took the time to care enough in you to help you. Right now, you were self-made in the motivation, right? You're the one that got up at 5 a.m. You're the one that works till 10 o'clock at night to hone in your craft, to get really good at what you do. But honestly, what drives me is that I remember being that person that didn't have help, didn't have advice, didn't have anybody I could talk to. And so I try to be open-minded. I try to be the person to provide guidance if I can, because I went to school to help people, right? So I'm putting my education to use at all the levels that I can.
So what does justice look like for you when you win a case for somebody whose life's been flipped upside down beyond the money? Because we know the money isn't the goal. The money is meant to help get their life back on track.
Right.
So what is that justice in the end?
unfortunately, we live in a system, right? I would love to give all my clients their health back, and all of the clients would love to get their health back, right? The money's secondary, but unfortunately, in our society, we can't get health back to 100% a lot of times, right? You have to be permanently injured in Florida to make a recovery. To go file a lawsuit, you have to have permanency. So a lot of these people have a permanent injury, and the only way we can compensate somebody is by money. That's how our justice system is set up, right? We're not an eye for an eye, right? If you poke my eye out, I'm not allowed to go poke your eye out, right? That's how they used to do it in ancient times. So the only way we can get any compensation or justice for our client is, one, is get them the best healthcare possible, right? Try to get them as close to 100% as possible. And then the secondary method is just to provide compensation to secure their future for their pain and their anger that they're going to feel and their isolation, right? Unfortunately, a lot of people start having mental health problems because they can't do the things they were always able to do.
So you're a Marine Corps veteran, right?
Right.
Once a Marine, always a Marine. That's the saying, isn't it?
Semper Fi is what they say.
So how does that experience of being active in the Marine Corps come into play in shaping who you are today?
Well, I think the Marine Corps teaches you resilience, right? It teaches you that, instead of everybody always says, no, you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. You think about, well, what ways can you do it? How can you overcome? How can you overcome the issues that you're dealing with, whether it's in court, whether it's for your client, whether it's any of their problems that they call us with, right? So I think that the Marine Corps really showed me that instead of sitting around and complain, right? Stop complaining about your situation, do something about it, right? Be active.
What core values do you bring into the office from the Marines that you want to?
I think that the biggest core value, right, is obviously integrity, right? You have to have integrity with the system. You have to have integrity with your clients, right? Whether it's good or bad, we tell our clients everything. We keep them informed. So I think that integrity, I think courage is a big one, because we're taking on the biggest corporations in the world, right? That have unlimited funds. So it's the David and Goliath story. And I think that is another core value that we share in the firm, that everybody who works with us understands that the odds are stacked against us, unfortunately, right? So nothing's easy. Nothing's easy. Anybody that's been in a car accident knows, like, just getting the other side who was at fault to fix your car is a process. So how are you going to get to work after the accident? Not only are you in pain, but now your whole life has been disrupted, from your work life to your health.
So let's look at the Marine training, right? When you're up against these massive, endless money cycling companies, what part of that training kicks in, do you think, that makes you just continue to fight?
I think it's the determination to want to win, right? You want to come out ahead. And so I'm willing to work harder. I'm willing to stay up longer. I'm willing to do what it takes to win. And I think that's something that, I think is honed by the Marine Corps, right? They always do more with less. They're expected to do everything with nothing.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go to leadership culture. Okay. When I first met with you, you had me meet with your staff.
That's right.
And I sat, and you weren't even here. I had to sit with everybody and talk. And I'll tell you, the biggest thing that stood out to me was that they honestly and genuinely love you as a person because you treat them like family. What is it about, or what is it that drives you to treat your staff as if they are your family and not just you're the boss of the office and that's the way it is?
I think every workplace should have that culture, right? I mean, that was one of the things that I really liked about being a public defender, right? One of the things that we had was culture. At our office, I was surrounded by 25 lawyers, and it was the idea I could go and knock on any one of their doors and say, hey, can we go over a case? Can we talk about it, right? Having that friendship. And what I thought about is like, well, when I open up my own place, I want it to be welcoming. I want the people to want to be at work, right? Because if you're happy and you like your boss and you like your environment, you're going to do better, right? So it shows. They take pride in their work. They take pride in their workplace. And so I think all that factors to our culture of who we are, right? So when people walk into our office, it's very modern. It's very open, right? You can see all the way from the beginning to the end. That is all by design. It's very different from any other law office you've ever been to because we work. There's stuff on our desks, there's stuff on the floors. I mean, you can see that we are working and that we're fighting for our clients. So I think I would just sum it up in the fact that if I care about my employees, they will care about me. And that's it, right? I mean, I think it's the common decency thing to do. And if you look at it like we're a family, I mean, we spend a lot of time together, David, right? We're here. Everybody at their own job, right, is either 40, 50, 60 hours a week. Why not be like a family? Then you have a place to call home away from home.
I can tell you, we all really appreciate that part of you.
Yeah.
So when clients walk into this office, I mean, we'll show everybody, if they look on Google, they can see pictures of it in here, but you designed this out really nice. Like you said, the design is meant to be welcoming. People can see you, see the staff, interact with people. What do you want clients to feel when they walk through this door?
I want them to feel like, wow, it's a cozy, comfortable place where I can be honest, where I can speak to my attorney. I can disclose everything. I want them to feel comfortable. And I want them to feel like, yes, this reflects who I am.
Okay. So now the hardest part about being a lawyer that people never get to see. What do you think that is?
I think the hardest part of being a lawyer is that you are always solving problems all day, every day, all the time, and all night. It doesn't stop, David, right? It's just part of being a lawyer, right? Your clients have problems, your clients have issues, your friends have issues, your family has issues. So you're answering and you are problem solving 24/7. And I think that's one of the things that really nobody ever told me, like, hey, you are going to be a master problem solver. But I think that that's what keeps us sharp. That's what keeps us a cut above the rest, is that we are constantly solving problems for our clients, for our family, for our friends, and it's helping everybody.
How do you handle that a pressure and maybe emotional stress that comes with it to keep yourself going every day?
I think part of it is having a wonderful wife, right? I give credit to my wife. She's my support system. I think, you have to have, an outlet. For me, I like to go to the gym. I like to work out, right? I go to the gym probably 4 or 5 times a week. I make sure I get out all that frustration and anger. And I have friends, right? You have to have fellow coworkers that understand your space. And it's difficult as an attorney because we all think about, well, everybody's so competitive with each other, but really you should find somebody in your field that you trust, that you can talk to, because they're feeling the same pressures that you are, right? And so it's hard to relate or have somebody relate to you that isn't in the same field because they don't understand all the pressures.
So now let's talk about those other lawyers. What advice would you want to give to other personal injury lawyers to be able to connect better with their clients or build that rapport deeper like you try to do?
I think it starts with meeting all of the new clients, right? I know a lot of personal injury lawyers and law firms, when new clients call, they don't even get to talk to a lawyer. I don't understand that. Doesn't make any sense to me. Here, we let myself and my other partner talk to all of the new clients right off the bat because, one, we're ultimately responsible for the case. And one day, if I have to try this case, I need to make sure we get all of the evidence to help the client now. We can't wait a year down the road to recreate that. So I would say take the time to meet your clients, take the time to know the case from the beginning, right? Explain to the client what the expectations are. If you don't manage expectations, then there's going to be a miscommunication. So I think that's the number one thing. Meet your new clients.
So is there anything you think that other lawyers could possibly do to re-earn that level of trust that maybe they've lost in the community? These big advertisements and billboards that only talk about money. Again, this isn't about money. This is about helping people get their life back. So how do you think maybe they could rebuild that trust that they might have lost?
I think it's going to start with caring about people's health, right? Forget about the monetary. The monetary is not the most important thing. If you focus on people's health and people get their health, health is wealth, right? You'll hear a lot of people say that no amount of money will buy you health. It's just the way it is. So I think if you focus on the client's health first and primary, everything else will fall into place.
So young lawyers that are in college now, they're going to be going to pass the bar. What advice do you have to them if they're trying to get into the personal injury space?
Get ready. Get ready, right? You're going to get up early. You're going to go to bed late, and you're going to take no breaks. And that's what it's like. It's a grind. It's hard work. Like I said, nothing's easy. The insurance company is going to fight you all of the way.
For the lawyers that are out there now that are starting to feel burned out, what advice would you give them to get that energy back, to go back to it hard?
You know, I would probably say start with your own health. I would say focus on your health, right? Go get your blood test done. Go get your blood workup done, right? Health insurance, people's health insurance doesn't cover all of your hormone levels. So I would say go get your hormones checked. You know, low T is a real thing, David. And it affects your mental acuteness. It affects your physical health. It affects your whole life in general. So check into that. That would be my advice. Like, go focus on your own health, and everything else will become easier and will fall into line.
Okay. So when people in the community hear your name, what's the thing you would hope they think of?
I would hope that they think of, wow, that guy really cares. That would be the number one thing, right? You're going to call Armando, he's going to care, right? If he takes your case, he is with you. He's your ride or die till the end of the case, right? He's not going to leave you halfway. He's not going to leave you with questions, and he's going to fight for you till the end.
You do a lot of activity work with Chamber of Commerce's and like EBOR, helping to make sure it's sustained and regrows correctly. What's that like for you?
Well, we try to join organizations, right, that are giving back. Like, you know, we do the Tampa Tunes. We participate with Tampa Tunes, which we have a beautiful piano outside of our office that we sponsored. And what's interesting, right, is all of the communities or all of the organizations that we join, we're trying to foster growth in the community to give back, whatever it is, right? Whether it's reading for children, right, or books or music, right? I mean, we look at education today, and they're cutting out all these things, and I think they're important. And so I think providing, you know, I mean, how many times does people stop and play our piano, David?
A couple times this morning already.
Yeah. You know, and it's really nice to hear live music. It's really soothing. So I think it's what they call chicken noodle soup for your soul.
Yeah. So what's the one promise you know you will always be able to keep that you can give to anyone who calls you to take their case?
I will listen. That's the one promise, is I will listen. I will hear you. And I will try to find a way to fulfill all of the objectives that you have set out.
Okay. Now, if this is the only video that anyone ever watches of us interacting, what's the one thing you want to make sure they take away from it?
Wow. If it's the only video you ever see, I would want you to know that whoever you hire, whether it's me or any other lawyer, you need to ask them, how do you plan to handle my case? What is your theory or philosophy for handling? Because it's called the practice of law. Okay. People practice it differently. And you want to make sure that whoever's handling your case is going to be handling it the way you want it handled. And I think that's what I would want. You know, we don't take on everybody's case. We're not the type of firm that everybody likes because of how hands-on we are. Some people don't like that. Some people just want to be a number, right? They like being put through the machine. We're very hands-on, but that's how we handle our cases. And that's not for everybody. But you need to know who's going to handle your case, how are they going to handle it, and what are their expectations and what are your expectations.
Awesome. Thanks for the time, Armando.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Appreciate you.